The views and content expressed on the following program are provided solely for informational and entertainment purposes. They do not constitute legal advice. A podcast is not a substitute for retaining a competent, licensed attorney to advise you on your specific legal situation.
Break a business, play is work and work is play. Power into creators, have fun along the way. Break the business, doing what it takes. Celebrate success and learn from the mistakes.
How's it going, everybody? Welcome to the show. It is time for Break the Business, where we empower indie creators and have some fun along the way. I'm Ryan Kairalla, and it is a pleasure to have you here this week. It is Thanksgiving Day as we record this, viewers and listeners. And once again, I had a magnificent holiday filled with not just the warmth of family, but the fulfillment that can only come from just gorging yourself on an unacceptable amount of food. And that's what I did, as I always do on Thanksgiving, for many reasons. You know, we have lots of great cooks in the family, chief among which is our producer of Break the Business, producer Lauren, my sister, who makes just the most spectacular cherry apple strawberry pies among a fantastic turkey dish and so many other fantastic sides. And she was wonderful, and want to wish her happy Thanksgiving. Hi, Lauren.
Oh, hi. Oh,
You know what? That was pretty dangerous of me to go to you there, because I know you're trying to produce the show and I know you're trying to get our guest ready. So it was crazy for me to think I could go to you there.
oh, you can always turn to me. Actually, I was just getting really excited because it's been a while. And so we have people coming in the chat and checking back in that I haven't seen in a while. So hello.
It is good to be back. I thank our viewers and listeners for hanging with us while I took a very long break to just be a dad and try to get my legal practice back in a period of calm again, which I think we're slowly able to do that. The holidays are slowing things down, as they often do in the entertainment biz. Thank y'all for hanging with us through our break, and good to have you back, and excited for this week's show, Lauren. We got ourselves a fantastic show. We're going to be joined this week by our guest, Rick Morse. He is a financial advisor with Merrill Lynch who specializes in working with creative professionals. I love these folks. I get to work alongside them in my legal practice. When I have an artist client, usually the person sitting right next to me in any meeting is that artist's financial advisor, a CFP, a CPA, somebody else in the financial alphabet soup of letter acronyms that do financial work. These people do very important work for their clients. It can be a very challenging job. Entertainers are not like other clients when it comes to wealth management. They often are, very different in terms of personality traits, and a good financial advisor has to be able to navigate that as you help that client grow wealth. And also, you have to, in that field, you have to be cognizant of the fact of the way money and wealth is accumulated for creative professionals. One, that you have to be aware of the fact that that wealth window can be a very narrow one. Many of these creators, if they accumulate a huge windfall, it might be within a very narrow window, and it's your job as the financial advisor to make that money that was accumulated in that very small period of time, 18 months, 2 years, last a lifetime, so that that person can have lifetime wealth and maybe even pass some wealth on to their children and their children's children. And that can't be easy, particularly because a lot of entertainers, they like to spend money, as we all do. Further, just the fact that a lot of these creators, like they don't go to business school. Nobody teaches them how to manage success. Oftentimes they're so engrossed in just trying to prevent failure from happening as a creator that when success finally comes, they're not ready for it. And they need people like Rick Morse to help them manage it. And so I'm excited to talk with him, have him give us some general financial advice for the creators out there, both for the ones who got a lot of money in the bank and the ones that hope to get there someday. I'm sure Rick's got some great advice for people on both ends of that spectrum.
Well, we know most people we know are not in this industry for the money. So they tend to not be money people. So the thing that we're most in need of help with would be financial advice. And that's just coming from me. Like, I don't like asking people for money. I don't like having to calculate it. I don't like it when tax time comes around. I don't like, these are things that if there's somebody, man, Rick, like if you can enjoy this thing, when you can find a way to like process money, you're the kind of guy I want to work with. Like you're the people that I want on my team.
This is why entertainment lawyers like me tend to find kindred spirits among the ranks of wealth advisors for entertainment clients, because both of us have something in common with respect of the work that we do. We often, as our clients, have people who are like, I don't want to have to think about what you do. I just
Yeah.
want you to
You
do
do
it
it.
and do it well so that I can continue to survive and make great art. And whether that's the law stuff or the, making sure I have enough money stuff, that's what we have to do. But Rick will be the first one to say right along me that we don't want clients to think that way. Oftentimes when we do our work as either lawyers or wealth advisors, we can do our job best when our clients are actually interested in this stuff, when they're involved in this stuff. They don't have to know everything. That's what we're here to hopefully do. But the more that you're curious about money, the more that you're curious about investing, the more that you're curious about law and you're asking the right questions about your situation, the better that folks like me can be and folks like Rick can be at doing our job. So we encourage the creators out there to understand that you are a business and you have to be interested in these things and have a curiosity about these things, even if you don't have to be an expert in these things. And that's why you hire experts. Lauren.
Right. You don't have to be. It's the thing that makes a lot of artists uncomfortable. And I guess
Yeah.
we'll get into this, is that it's not a matter of can or can't, but it's like, it's the part that isn't the feel good part. So you want to have a team of people you trust and like value, because it's nerve wracking. And like you said, I can make money in a gig for a year, but I might not get a gig for another 2 years. So like I have to figure out how to calculate that. I have to figure out how many months is normal to me when it's not for somebody else. And that just because I have a lot of money now doesn't mean I have to support my entire family and the friends that came up with me. And like it's a world that a lot of people don't understand. So I'm fascinated to hear what he has to say about
the
it.
entourages, the friends from the neighborhood who
Come
you
on,
want to take
man,
care of. I wouldn't even get
come on.
into that and all the challenges that come there. Well, speaking of things that are nerve-wracking, I have a technical question for you here, producer Lauren. What are the chances that we're going to get this Rick Morse conversation up without a hitch? I know we had some like technical stress behind the scenes about getting the audio and the video. Is he going to be ready to go in the next segment?
I see him smiling.
Well, that's good. It sounds like he's confident,
and
which you always want your
he's
financial advisor to be.
Right, exactly. He's showing confidence. I think we're good. I'm confident. I'm confident that he's confident. We'll see.
Well, I mean, if I had my choice between who I want to be confident, the
Yes.
guest who has no control over the technical aspects of this production, or the producer who's in charge of the technical aspects of this production, I'd rather you be confident right now. But I guess it's nice that he is too.
We're both confident. Well, I've seen some people sitting in our green room with some faces that do not look quite as confident. There's some nerves back in stage, and there's some things happen backstage, and there's like times when you see the camera sideways backstage, and I'm over here going like, we've got to fix this. When I can like see a face, I'm feeling a little better.
That's true.
I
mean,
haven't
we
set
were
my
looking
bar
at
very
just
high.
to be fair, right up until before the show started, all we saw where Rick Morse's face should be in the virtual green room was like, that a black box with that little spinning loading icon, which is like the most terrifying sight when you are trying to do a live broadcast and you're about to interview a spinning circle on
You're
your
like,
show.
Don't buffer.
Yeah. All right. So we are cautiously optimistic. Hang on a sec, viewers and listeners.
I hear
Come here, buddy.
baby voices.
So, lest you all didn't think this was a live program, my 2-year-old toddler Nathan just popped into the show, or 3-year-old toddler Nathan just popped into the show. You want to say hi to everybody on
Hi,
Break the Business?
Nathan.
Want to say hi? That's your auntie Ala there.
Hi.
Hi. Okay. You want to
Okay,
go
go
see
to
mommy
bed.
real quick?
Good night. No, he's staying. He's gonna
No,
stay
you
and do
want
the
to stay
show.
here? Well,
Oh,
you know what?
man.
let's see how long we can have him hang here. You want to hang out with us while we talk about the music industry, Nathan?
Oh, that was not on mic, but I'm going to assume there was a yes there.
Okay, well, it's definitely a live program here. There's a lot of stuff that's happened in the entertainment industry since we've been gone, right? Even though we've been gone, it's not like the industry has stopped. And so there's a lot we can talk about here. Like, where do you think we should go here, Lauren? I'll give you a few choices, right? We can talk about what happened a couple days ago, which was that the Warner Music Group label recently settled with the AI music generation platform Suno to have to settle that longstanding lawsuit. You remember Warner Music Group sued Suno, as have many of the major labels, because Suno is allegedly training its music generation AI platform on everybody's music,
Copywritten
basically,
music, yeah.
which includes the copywritten music of the major record labels.
Right.
And so that's hey, let me
Has
just
it
bring
been
him back
settled?
to this
Wait,
moment.
it's settled?
It did settle. Hang on. Let me bring my son back. If you, Lauren, can you just filibuster for like literally 30 seconds? Stand by,
go.
everybody.
Bye, Nathan. So today, while Nathan, who, this is a family holiday, right? So Nathan's been running loose around the family, and he convinced Ryan to make his way through an adventure course bounce house. So I have been nixed from playing said video, but it's kind of tempting since he walked away, but I'm not going to do it. Of Ryan and Nathan making their way through a bounce house. And Ryan
I'm
is
back.
now in his 40s, and Ryan needs to remember that he's in his 40s when he decides it's a good idea to play football and with his cousins on foot. Like when you were in your, teens and 20s, like it was fun to play football. I'm super interested to hear how it was to play football with the teens and 20 somethings when you're not one of them now.
You know what? I'll take the audible on that. I'd much rather talk about the Thanksgiving Day football game that I played than the AI Suno Warner Music lawsuit. I just need a quick second to catch my breath as I had to run my 3-year-old across the room of the house. We've had 3 years worth of Break the Business episodes like with my son. This has never happened before. This is wild. Okay, yes. At Thanksgiving today we had a touch football game. It was the millennials against the Gen Zers. The people in their 30s, 40s against the people in their teens and 20s. The Gen Zers challenged us. The Gen Zers in our family challenged us millennials in a touch football game. And boy, did they seem confident they were going to beat us because, we're the old guys. Let me tell you, viewers and listeners, we crushed the Gen Zers, absolutely obliterated them. The balding, overweight, athletically past their prime millennials shredded these whippersnappers. It was a victory for the aged everywhere. And look, your boy, who would not call himself anything resembling an athlete, did a serviceable job out there. I caught a touchdown pass. I actually played the whole game without leaving it, which many of my millennial teammates can't say, who left after 3 or 4 plays because they were getting hernias and stuff and tearing their ACLs. I hung in there the whole time, partially because I was never an athlete like many of my family members were. These are all still new parts. A lot of my cousins, they played sports in high school and college. So all their muscles are torn and broken and stuff. But all this stuff's fresh, baby. And so I played the whole game. Wasn't great, wasn't terrible, but millennials got the dub.
And I think you're underestimating how much physical training you do chasing around a toddler. I mean, you're I'm out of shape. I'm I don't know. You've been doing a lot of lifting. You've been doing a lot of running.
These arms are yoked because the kid's getting pretty heavy now. Yeah. And although I was pretty winded just trying to run him back to the other side of the house to try to put him to bed in the middle of a radio show.
Well, that's after all the tryptophan. That's just not fair.
Oh, yeah. Oh, he's turkey tired. I'm turkey tired. All right, let me talk to you about Suno, for God's sake.
Okay, no, I do want to know what's going on with that. And there's a side chat. Okay, we'll get to listener question later. Continue.
Okay. So, as we've reported on Break the Business in the past, all the labels are suing the AI music generation platform Suno
Yes.
because Suno is allegedly training its platform on everybody's copyrighted music, right? If you have made music, it's possible that Suno has fed your music into their platform to train its software. Now, all of the labels, all the rights owners are making the argument that that's copyright infringement. That is, you are copying this material, you are feeding it into a system, it is using that material to make new works. Those are derivative works. This is textbook infringement. The platform, like the Suno type platforms, because a lot of these different kind of music platforms are getting sued, are all making the argument of, one, we're not taking your work. And then when you ask them to elaborate, they're like, well, we're not going to prove one way or another because we probably are taking your work. But then what they argue, which I think is the more interesting legal question, is even if we are taking your work to train our platform, it's fair use. There's something transformative about using this existing material to train a software. Personally, as a copyright lawyer, I don't buy that argument. I think it's not a particularly strong one. Like, you can't just say something is transformative just because you don't want to have to pay royalties, which it seems like that's the argument they're trying to make. Like, apparently for them, transformative and fair use means we don't feel like paying. But anyway, that's the argument. And it's it was heading for being one of the most important modern questions in copyright law as it would get answered, right? Is training AI with copyrighted works fair use? And depending on how you answer that question, creates an existential threat to one of two industries. If a court says training AI is not fair use, that just destroys all of these AI companies, right? Because you're talking about an incalculable amount of damages in the infringements committed by Suno, by ChatGPT, by Claude, by any of these folks that have been training their platforms on copyrighted data. Like, you couldn't even quantify the amount of statutory damages. It'd be a ridiculously high number, way more than anybody could possibly pay. But similarly, if a court were to come out and say that this is fair use, that these AI platforms are free to use the copyrighted material in this manner, that's an existential threat to all the rights holders, record labels, film studios, book publishers, music publishers. Like, once you tell them it's open season on using copyrighted material for these works and you don't have to pay them any royalties, boy, that is just a crushing defeat for that industry. That is a huge potential revenue stream lost. So a lot of people well, what happened is they settled. And that's what was announced a couple days ago, or at least Warner settled. And I have had people ask me, well, why was there a settlement? Why didn't this case go further? Why didn't we get that big fair use ruling? And what I told them was the same thing I told them months ago when we covered the story, which was this case was never going to get to a ruling. And the reason why is because both sides have so much to lose if they lose, right? It's an existential threat either way. And so when that's the case, people are going to come to the table. And that's what happened here is they've worked out some kind of deal between Warner and Suno where Suno is going to be able to use Warner Music's catalog to train Suno, and Suno is going to pay royalties to these rights holders. And there's going to be an opt-in mechanism. So if you're a Warner artist, you'll be able to decide whether you want your music to be used to train Suno, and you'll get royalties. How they're going to calculate that, what that's all going to look like, who knows? That's something we're going to find out much, much later. But this was inevitable. And I think we're going to see this more often. I think you're going to see more settlements like this between Suno and all of the other labels. I think once Warner did it, like Universal's going to do it next, and then Sony's going to do it. That part's, inevitable. And I think what you might even eventually see.
What happens to the indie creators? Like the stuff that's been taken from copyright holders that don't have the financial backing of a big label?
Well, that's an interesting point, right? Is that, Warner can fight for this because they have the deep pockets to go up against a platform like Suno or OpenAI or something like that. I think what eventually has to happen, where we are eventually heading, is a legislative fix. I think there's going to be some kind of law that has to get passed eventually because this current world is unsustainable, where we're going to create some kind of royalty system where creators can get paid when their music is used to train AI,
or when they opt into it.
Well, that's going to be the big
yeah.
That's the big foundational question, right? Is when this legislation does get created, which I think it has to eventually, is it going to be an opt-in system where, artists get to decide, I'll let you train your platform on my music and on my book and on my whatever copyrighted work I've
Voice or
created?
whatever, yeah.
Or is it an opt-out where the law will presume that everybody's in, and the only way you're not in is if you get to take your music out, is if you say, I want my music or my art or my book out. And I think whether it's opt-in or opt-out is going to depend on, who's got more power to leverage Congress. Historically, record labels and book publishers have been a very strong lobbyer of Congress, but who's also strong? Big tech and AI. So we'll see where that one shakes out. But I think, so what we are seeing with the Warner case is just the first example of what we're going to see more often, which is big tech and big media are going to have to find a way to get along in this AI world. And to your point, Lauren, we need to make sure that whatever that world looks like is not one where independent creators who don't have the big label fighting for them get left behind. We need a legislative solution that includes those people as well, so that they get to participate in whatever is going to come next with AI and art.
Yeah. The trickle-down effect. I know.
So
I want to give thanks.
So that one happened. Vine is coming back, sort of. I don't know if you were a fan of Vine. I loved Vine when I was growing up. Speaking of millennials, Vine was this really delightful short-form video platform. You could watch 6-second videos. So much of the humor of millennials are just recycled references on Vine. And then one day, Vine just went away. It got kind of replaced by more popular short-form video platforms like TikTok. But Vine still has a special place in our hearts. And it's been announced that Jack Dorsey is creating a new platform that's going to be kind of a successor to Vine. And it's going to have all of the old Vine catalogs in it. So if you were a Vine creator, you can bring your old Vines to this new Vine-type platform. And I'm pretty stoked for that. I've always loved Vine, and I think there was a whole generation of indie creators who made their bones on that platform who might be able to find their way back to something similar again. So that's kind of neat.
Do they still have all the original Vine content, or the content creators have to re-upload the old stuff?
No, it is all in a repository. So you can actually go back into that platform if you are that creator and sort of reclaim your old content. It is still there.
Wow,
it's been preserved.
So they're basically
in amber.
bringing it back. That's
and
cool.
frankly,
if I was
this
a
country-
creator and you archived my materials for me, that was kind of a nice thing.
I kind of dig. And, America needs Vine now more than ever. It's no secret that the last time, we all kind of think that the country was in good shape and the world was happy was right around the time that Vine was still with us. So maybe the loss of Vine sort of portended a lot of the doom that we're experiencing right now. Before we bring in Richard, I want to talk about a story that might have fallen under the radar. It happened earlier this month, back in November. And I think it's kind of an interesting one. And maybe we can get some policy ideas from this. It happened all the way in Ireland, producer Lauren. Let me give you a little bit of background. Back in 2022, Ireland announced a basic income pilot program in which 2,000 creative professionals in the country would receive a basic income of 325 euros per week, which is about $380 American. And last month, Ireland announced that it was going to make the program permanent. So that's pretty neat for independent creators. Under the program, 2,000 selected artists would receive around $1,500 per month, no strings attached. Participants will be selected from an application process set to begin in September 2026. And the program includes a provision that may allow for up to 200 additional artists to receive income if more funding becomes available. According to CBC Radio, the original pilot program cost the country more than $100 million, but some of the cost was offset through tax generation and a reduction in welfare payments. And the program also created a noticeable boost in art engagement in the country. Now, the reason why I bring up this story, Lauren, other than the fact that it's just so awesome and it's cool and love to see creators get paid, is I think it does kind of bear some relationship to the last story we talked about. I think as AI platforms proliferate And as big tech continues its stranglehold over creativity, and as platforms like Spotify are paying less and less, I think we are moving toward a future where basic income programs have to be part of the solution of how we create sustainable futures for creative professionals. At some point, we might need a public sector solution where we decide as a country, as a world, that creative professionals are a asset to our society, are something of value. And right now there are too many impediments in place put in by, say, big tech to prevent these artists from getting all the value that they deserve. And so we're going to come up with basic income and similar solutions to put money in these creators' pockets so that they're not suffering and so that they can have a decent standard of living to make the art that we all love and enjoy. And Ireland is now starting in this endeavor, and it's encouraging to see what they're up to.
They've been doing it for a while in a lot of ways. Like when I went to the Edinburgh Fringe Festival, I would sit in on workshops, and the number of independent artists, not the big shows, not the big things. Ireland has given grants for years to artists with little independent shows, comedians, musicians, and you can apply for grants, and they basically send you out as an ambassador for their country to go to other countries performing your art. And I'm not talking big companies and brands, individuals contact constantly. And there's some other countries that do smaller things, but I've seen Ireland a lot do a lot of that. And like you said, it's something that they're putting an effort into because they understand that it's part of the culture. And there was a lot of depression in Ireland, and there was a lot of, and they've put a lot of energy into the arts and culture, bring the communities back. And I really wish that we valued the arts more here and saw the community aspect of it. Those with money need to be patrons of the arts. Those succeeding in business need to find ways to bring the arts to their companies, to their patrons, to their workers. Like, it improves morale, blah, blah, blah. You don't need to be pitched on the pros of the arts industry. But somehow we have to get it to the minds of the people who aren't currently hooked, because especially post-pandemic, when we lost connection with the live entertainment world, if you don't reconnect to it, you don't know it's there. Like, it has to, and the legislators, they're not, it's easy to ignore, it's easy to skip over, and it's easy to,
It's funny you bring that up. It does kind of suggest a very different attitude towards this, depending on what side of the Atlantic you're on. Because it sounds like, from the way that these people were talking about these kind of programs when you were at the Fringe Festival in Scotland, that there's nothing controversial about any of this stuff. Of course, we use public money to support creative endeavors. Like, it's part of the fabric of our country. We support that just in the same way that we support military or education or roads. They're all very important to us. And it's not controversial, and it makes obvious sense to them. Whereas in America, whenever there is any kind of strong policy push to cut the federal budget, the first thing that's always on the chopping block is the National Endowment for the Arts. And whenever a politician proposes more arts funding or, refunding the NDA, it's always, oh, it's a government handout program. Why are we funding art that if people liked this art, they'd pay for it? And it's just so strange, like how there can be just this very different attitude toward these sort of policy prescriptions
on every stance, because you've got the infrastructure of our governments, of our local community governments and everything, saying the individuals will pay for the arts if they care about the arts, and it's not for the taxpayer money to go to the arts. And then you've got the individuals going, well, our community provides the arts. I'm not paying $10 for a ticket to the show, but I'll pay $15 for the drink at the show, because they expect the entertainment to be part of what their tax dollars pay to be part of their community entertainment. But it's like, it's not. You can't have it on both sides. Like, you can't say the people are going to pay out of their excess funds and the people are going to say, no, I think that should be part of my culture. Like, at some point, we need to figure out which way that's going to be, so we can support what we both enjoy and we need in our communities to bring us together and survive.
Yeah.
And thrive. Forget survive. We can survive without the arts, but we can't thrive without the arts.
It's the resistance to this kind of stuff is something that I just don't understand. I remember, a few weeks ago on this program, we had our co-host who we love, Gideon King, on the show. And we were talking to Gideon about the new legislation that Congresswoman Tlaib was proposing that would put a tax on all Spotify, Apple Music, DSP subscriptions. And those tax dollars would go directly to artists, right? This is a tax on this money that would go right into artists' accounts. It wouldn't go through Spotify, no middle people, directly to paying out artists to put more money in their pockets. And so it's like you said, Lauren, right? It's money that's going directly to artists. So of course we're going to support it. And Gideon, who I think was speaking for himself, but not just himself, but a lot of Americans, was saying, no, absolutely not. If you try to tax this stuff, you're going to bankrupt these companies. People don't want to pay more for this music. And I just don't understand that. Like, I mentioned this on the show. If you told me I had to pay, and maybe this is just my own privilege talking, if I had to pay $5 more a month for my Apple Music subscription, but you told me that $5 was going to go directly into the artists that I support, I wouldn't even blink. Of course I'd want to support those artists and put more money in their pockets.
Until you have, like, you think about those companies that auto pay things, because I'll start and go, oh, that's great. And then I'll turn and I'll go, oh, that's great. And then I realized, I said, yeah, of course I'll do that 50 times. And that $5 50 times added up in my monthly payments. And you know what? I'm just going to get rid of all of them. And then because of that traumatic thing, I'm not going to sign up for anything that costs me a whole lot of money monthly.
Oh.
And that resistance is what stops people from wanting to pay $5 every month for their music.
Oh, by the way, I so do that. I am so bad about that. Like, there are creators on Twitch who I listened to them play like one time 7 years ago, or like
and you're
they
still
were
on
playing
their Patreon.
Yeah. And like, I just set like a monthly subscription for them. Like, they might not even play on their Twitch channel anymore, and they're still getting payments from me every month just because, like,
I feel so bad not sending it to them. I've had this same thing where I'm like, I believe in that artist. And I'm like, dude, I don't want him to get $5 less this month.
Yeah.
Like,
no, I've done that before. Like, I've gone through my credit card statements, and I'm like, why am I still giving this person money? They haven't posted anything in 4 months. And I'm like, I love art. That person made me happy while I was like in lockdown and I couldn't go to any shows, and I was listening to them play guitar on Twitch. They gave me so much. I can't give them $2 a month.
I've done the math too. I've gone back and been like, I mean, really, in total, I paid him less than I would have paid to go to a concert. Just
It's
$2
true.
a month.
That's true.
But yeah, it adds up. And so because of that, I think there is an avoidance. So you hear something like you're going to get $5 more a month, and your subconscious doesn't hear $5 more a month. Your subconscious hears, oh my God, it's another auto payment. Do you know how many of those auto payments I have? Oh my God, I'm going to pay $1,000 more a month. And it's like, no, you're putting $5 a month in artist pockets in general. And people are like, no.
Yeah. Well, maybe this is just like a uniquely American thing. I don't know. Look, we got to put more money in creators' pockets because Rick Morris needs something to manage.
Yes. There we go. That's a good reason.
There you go. Like let's give Rick Morris something to do, right? Let's more money for artists so that Rick Morris can manage that $5 a month, put it in good investments, and make it worth a whole bunch more when those artists are ready to retire. Love that. Let's take a break, and then we're going to chat with our guest, Rick Morris. Excited to hear from him. Don't go anywhere. Keep checking out Break the Business. Break the Business is presented in cooperation with Ryan A. Kairalla, PA. Ryan A. Kairalla, PA is a law firm providing transactional entertainment legal services, including contracts, business formation, commercial law, copyright, trademark, and more. Ryan A. Kairalla, PA, Miami, Florida. rkpalaw.com.
Streaming services for Break the Business provided by LEK Entertainment. LEK Entertainment is a full-service entertainment company offering everything from consultations to full-scale events and productions, including audio and video productions, voiceovers, staged theatrical productions, script and music development, and streaming services. For more information, visit lekentertainment.com. LEK Entertainment wants to help you bring your story to life.
thanks for supporting Break the Business. If you have a question or topic that you want us to discuss, email us at breakthebusiness@gmail.com. You can follow the host, that's me, on Twitter at Ryan Kair, and you can follow the show at the BTB Podcast. Be sure to subscribe to the show on Twitch, YouTube, and Facebook, and on all major podcast platforms. And now, let's get back to the show. Welcome back to Break the Business, everybody. Ryan Kairalla here with producer Lauren. Mwah! Thank you all so very much, you wonderful people, for what's the word I'm looking for here? For supporting this program. It's been so long since I have done a show that I forgot the word supporting. That and the tryptophan from the turkey has just made me tired. Thank you for supporting us on Twitch and on volume.com, our live streaming partner, Slam Radio, Sirius XM 165. You check us out there. Much appreciated. All major podcast platforms. 145. Did I forget the name of the damn channel? Sirius XM 145. I'm so sorry. And all the major podcast platforms. Wherever you are taken in this program, we are so glad that you are. We're so glad that you're helping us move this community forward and helping us grow it. Thank you in advance for telling a friend and helping bring more people onto this ride. Let's go ahead and bring out our guest this week. He is a financial advisor and a senior vice president at Merrill Lynch Wealth Management, who specializes in helping artists and catalog holders navigate financial decisions. He is a certified financial planner, a certified investment management analyst, and a sports and entertainment accredited wealth management advisor. We are happy to welcome Rick Morris on to Break the Business. Hi, Rick.
Good evening, Ryan, Lauren. Thank you so much for having me on your show this evening. I appreciate it.
It's very much our pleasure, sir. Happy Thanksgiving. Appreciate you coming in. Let's begin at the beginning with you here, Rick. Your interest in the music industry and wanting to work with music clients, I think, could be traced all the way back to you being a kid. When you were a kid, you were the music editor of your dad's teen magazine. Is this right?
Yes, at least figuratively. My cousin and I were pretty young. Our fathers were partners in the business, and we came up with the idea about listing us as music editors. We would put some stories in there periodically, and we were able to collect a substantial number of demo records of all shapes and, well, not sizes, but all different genres.
Oh, I love this because, like, in this like magazine day, these music editors could carry a lot of power. And, like, you know, I bet you probably had like a lot of really important agents and managers like trying to reach out to you, trying to suck up to you, get you to write about a client. And they don't know that on the other end of the phone is like some pimply faced 15-year-old.
I don't think they knew our magazine existed, but perhaps.
I mean, can we sort of draw
But
a line
the record
between
companies
those?
knew because we. I'm sorry. Go ahead.
Yeah. I was saying, can we sort of draw a line between those early experiences in your youth and where you are today in terms of working in finance, but specifically for music professionals?
Yes, always, as you mentioned, always had an interest in music. It started early, not just from my dad's magazines. My brother's 8 years older than I am, and he was listening to a lot of Motown, a lot of Atlantic Soul records. He had the entire Stax collection of music, and that's what I grew up on before I was old enough to go out and buy my own records. And it differed from what he had, but I always loved music. I had no musical talent whatsoever, so I was able to. I couldn't play a piano, I couldn't play a guitar, but I did learn to play the stereo very well.
I like that.
Oh, I want to steal that line.
And I bet you were an absolute virtuoso on the adding machine and can probably work an Excel spreadsheet. And that's really what was music to the ears of your music clients. Let me talk about some of your credentials here. So I have heard of a CFP, certified financial planner. That's very, very common. And I know what a certified investment management analyst is, but up until now, when I read this intro, I had never heard of being a sports and entertainment accredited wealth management advisor. What does that entail?
So I don't know if you could see this, but there's part of the learning material that was put out by the College for Financial Planning. And like probably any other profession, there are certain nuances to the sports and entertainment industry that don't necessarily apply or don't apply at all to other professions. If you think about the average or even above average worker, they're getting a salary. Those taxes are taken out of their paycheck, and they don't have to worry about withholding the taxes on and coming up with the cash, whether it's each quarter or each year. Lauren mentioned something before. She hated tax time. I don't know anyone who likes tax time. And my brother's an accountant. He doesn't like it, although that's what he does. So, there are, as Ryan pointed out, these people are independent. They're getting money at certain times for a short period of time when they're very famous, right? We could all think about musicians that hit it big for a little while and you never hear from them again, or at least you never hear their records again. Maybe they were fortunate enough years later to sell their catalog. I had an interest. I kept hearing about the big numbers that were being gotten for, Bruce Springsteen, or $250 million for Paul Simon. I think the largest one I read was Queen, got over $1 billion for their catalog. And so I started investigating what it would cost to buy music publishing rights. But even a smaller artist like P.F. Sloan, who wrote a lot of songs for the Turtles, and I think maybe it was with the Grassroots, if I remember correctly. However, his small catalog went for $20 million, was bought by Primary Wave. And that got me more interested in the music industry as well. I did not set up or get involved actually in investing in music publishing. I'm sticking to what I know, because I learned there's a lot about the music publishing business that in order to be successful, it's better left in the hands of the people that know what they're doing.
True enough. Since you brought it up, I'd love to inquire about this movement we're seeing in the last few years of artists selling their catalogs. Like, obviously, this has always been something that's kind of been part of the landscape, but I would say more recently, in the last few years, we're seeing a proliferation of this, where artists, rather than waiting for their royalties to come in from the songs that they've written, they will sell the rights to those royalties to some kind of buyer. Oftentimes, they securitize these royalty flows. Why do you think we're seeing a proliferation like this now? What's going on like in the last few years that's making this more common?
So I think there are two primary factors, at least in my opinion. One has to do with the availability of liquidity from private equity firms. So they're making investments in a lot of these music publishing businesses because they like to see the steady cash flow that comes from royalties. But the other major factor is the artists and those who own the rights are getting older. And now you're going to have a big estate tax planning issue. If one of the artists passes away and now they have this huge estate, and maybe they don't have the liquid money available to pay the taxes that are due on that large estate, whether it's 250 million, 500 million, a billion, where are they going to get the money from? And if they wait until after they pass away, now it's in the hands of the estate itself. And they have a limited amount of time to raise the money because the taxes are due. I think, I'm not an estate planning attorney, but I think they're due in 9 months. So they're starting, look at the artists, right? Bruce Springsteen and Paul Simon and Bob Dylan. They're still talented, but they're a little closer to the end of their careers than they were to the beginning of their careers.
So maybe you're getting to that sort of that first big generation of artists that really made a ton of money in the industry that are now getting sort of towards their more golden years. And so there's a need for this kind of vehicle now more than there ever was. Now, Rick, as you might guess, most of the folks who partake in this program don't have multi-million or even billion-dollar catalogs they're looking to securitize. And so I want to make sure we can also impart some guidance for artists who are still getting started. Not yet. Yet is absolutely the operative word there, Rick. Thank you. So let's say you were sitting down with an independent artist who's sort of more closer to the beginning, doesn't have that big windfall yet. What financial general guidance might you impart to them now, even before that big payday has come?
One is to plan as if it will come. So you set up scenarios, and that would be more with the lawyers and the accountants. And I would advise them to speak to them to set up a situation where if that large amount of wealth did come, and it comes usually quickly and by surprise, all of a sudden you have a big hit and you're making a lot of money. Think about the lottery ticket winner, right? You don't see they used to announce who the lottery winners were. They don't do it too much anymore. But when they did, oftentimes you wouldn't hear about the winner till 9 months after the lottery drawing took place. That's because the ones that waited were wise enough to go to their estate planning attorney and go to their accountant and set up whatever vehicles they could to minimize the taxes and make sure from their own legacy planning that they were able to achieve their goals. And so you want to do that. The same thing if you're setting up a business. We have a client who set up his business many years ago, and they were just starting out. They had zero income, but the accountants were very wise in how they set up the structure, and it protected his family, and the business grew substantially. They made huge amounts of money, and the planning that they did saved them, or will save them, a huge sum of money every year and at the end of their estate life.
So why do we hear so many stories of folks in the entertainment industry getting these big financial windfalls from a big hit or some kind of big break and then ending up broke a few years later? Is that because they didn't do the work of kind of setting up that infrastructure early on? Like, what tends to account for these unfortunate stories when they come?
So that's certainly part of it. And the other part is, I'll call it expense creep relative to your income. All of a sudden now they're making a lot of income and they're focusing about what they want, not what they need. And that they think that income stream is going to last forever, or at least a lot longer than the first few years that they get it. And so all of a sudden they have these large expenses. They're helping out their friends. I think Lauren touched on it earlier when you were talking. I was in the green room, and they're helping their friends out. They're helping their family out as if that income stream was never going to end. All of a sudden it ended. They didn't plan for to save on the taxes, right? We talked before about the withholding tax versus having to set aside the cash to pay the taxes that are going to be due each year. And there are plenty of stories, you could look up on Google, of people that it was really the tax bills that drove them to ruin, financial ruin.
Do you think that AI, as we were talking about earlier, and the Sunos and the things like that are coming, are having anything to do with the way that people are financially planning? I mean, you were talking about catalogs being sold. Is there kind of a fear of like that stuff won't have as much value going forward? Do they have to recalculate how to make money?
I don't know about.
That is just a random. I don't know if there's an
None of us do.
actual
We're all terrified by this,
Gosh,
Rick.
I wish we knew the answer.
You had suggested earlier, Rick, that there is kind of a difference in how you would advise a entertainment industry professional and a non-entertainment industry professional. And you said one of the big differences is sort of the massive jumps in wealth that can happen for an entertainment industry professional that are often unexpected. Are there any other big differences between how you might advise these two populations differently?
Sure. Some of it has to do with where they earn their money. So if they're performing a concert in New York, where state income taxes are higher, versus performing in Miami, Florida, where there are no state income taxes, that's going to have a different impact on how much money they need to set aside to cover their tax bills. And they need to start making quarterly estimates. And again, this is more from the accounting side, but from the investing side, we want to make sure that they have a certain amount of liquidity available to make those payments, right? The accountant will tell them how much, or they'll tell us how much they need to set aside, and we'll set up the mechanisms for them to do that.
And now going back to this point about expense creep or lifestyle creep that you were talking about, I am sure that in your work, part of what you have to tell a client, in the entertainment business, is they simply have to spend less money than maybe they thought they were going to be able to spend. You know, they see that they have $1 million that came in this year and they think, oh, I get to spend $1 million this year. And you have to tell them, no, you actually would only be able to responsibly spend a fraction of that, because some of that's going to taxes, some of that's going to your expenses, and some of that needs to be put away and prudently invested so that it can last a lot longer for you long after, when you're no longer, you know, making $1 million in a year. How do you go about having that uncomfortable conversation with an entertainment client when you have to explain to them that they can't spend the way that you might think a rock star gets to spend money?
Okay, I'll say a picture is worth 1,000 words. So we prepare a report that goes through all their assets, how much is being generated from those assets. You know, you're not generating anything from the home you own, but you're generating money from royalties, you're generating money from various investments you may have, perhaps other income streams that are there. And then we show them, here's what your expenses are. And then assuming retirement or life age of, let's say, 93, 94 years old, here's where you're going to run out of money at the current rate that you're spending. Or maybe they're not going to run out of money because they have enough. And they see that and they go, wow, I didn't realize that. I need to do something. And that's what most clients understand, the realities of it. And they don't want to run out of money. I think the three biggest fears out there, and I could be off on this, but you know, one of them is certainly running out of money. There's certainly death, and I think public speaking is the other one.
Public speaking might be number one. Man, that's so, you know, and I thought for sure, Lauren, that when Rick said the way he has this conversation with his clients is a picture's worth 1,000 words. I thought that all he would do is just sit the client at a desk and just show them a picture of MC Hammer. And then the client would go, okay, I get it.
Okay, I won't do that. It won't.
I won't do that. Okay. No solid gold mansion. I got it, Rick. I'm sorry.
Yeah, there are a host of other examples, and I'll just tell them to Google it as opposed to mentioning the names, and they'll find it on their own.
Yeah, there's unfortunately way too many of these stories. And you know, I'm grateful that there are folks like you that can help these artists find the way. I think generally, artists, creative professionals, you need to know that a core component of having a successful professional and personal life when you start to get on the precipice of success is putting the right team around you. And putting them around you before you need their help, right? Having a financial advisor before the finances get crazy. Having a good attorney next to you before the legal matters get crazy so that they can set up the right infrastructure for you and set you up for success. And grateful that folks like you in this business, Rick, are around to help artists do that. You must get a lot of satisfaction out of what you do.
I do. It's why I'm still doing it. I'm a baby boomer. So a little older than a lot of the other people in the office. People say, why are you still working? And it's because I enjoy what I do. So I keep at it. We have a team that manages a sizable amount of assets for our clients. And it's thoroughly enjoyable. I'm not lifting bricks for a living, so I don't have to worry about a torn ACL or other issues unless I just clumsily fall down on my own because I wasn't playing football today. And you hit a few nails on the head. One of them had to do with kindred spirit, you know, finding someone that you like and trust and you feel good about. There are a lot of good financial advisors out there. Not all personalities fit with one another. It doesn't make anyone a bad financial advisor. Just not everybody fits well with each other. So I think it's important to find someone with a kindred spirit. You mentioned about limited time frame for accumulating the wealth that oftentimes that's short, especially with athletes, right? Just from a physical standpoint, regardless of how good they are. I go back to, there was a commercial many years ago for a clothing company, and their mantra was, an educated consumer is our best customer. And that helps with us as well. Okay, so we're not looking for them to be experts. Our clients, those are pretty smart. They wouldn't have accumulated the wealth that they had without a certain amount of emphasis or on what they do and knowing their craft. And they may be able to do this on their own. However, they don't. I don't. There are a lot of things I could probably learn to do, but I don't because my interests lie more here. And I'll be able to enrich my own life by sticking with what I know. So, and then I hire other people, attorneys, accountants, people to do things around the house. I took a woodworking course. The one thing I learned from the woodworking course is that I wasn't that good at it. So I hired someone else to make my wall unit for my stereo system. This is, of course, before you had remote speakers and everything was wireless. It's great to see you two get along so well. Thanksgiving is, what's that movie, Home for the Holidays, where the siblings don't always get along so well and they dread coming home for the holidays. So nice to see you two get along so well.
Oh,
We have a big
absolutely.
enough family. There's enough emotion to go around.
Oh God, ain't that the truth? So Rick, very much appreciate your insights here. For the viewers and listeners who might be interested in learning more about the work that you do, maybe interested in getting to work with you, what's the best way for them to get in contact?
Email or telephone. Do I give a number or an email address? I'm not sure.
How
how
about
this
an email?
works.
Email's good.
Okay, it's richard.morse, MORSE, at ml.com. ML stands for Merrill Lynch. And
Very good.
that's the best way to reach out to us.
Thank you so much. Now, we encourage our viewers and listeners, get more informed about this, be that educated consumer. Rick, this has been a pleasure. We really appreciate you stopping by, and we would love for you to do it more often because we want to get more informed on these very important topics. But before we let you go, sir, we got one last question for you. Do you have any last tips for the indie creators out there to help them move their careers forward?
I'm not one to give career advice for creators of art, music, not my bailiwick. I'll help trainees here move their careers forward because that's something I know about. I have no idea how to move a career forward for a talented musician or artist or whatever the thing may be. My son might. He's an entertainment attorney as well, but mostly a talent agent. So he would be better.
Let's get
suited
him
for
on.
that.
No, I'm just kidding. No, we don't know either, Rick. That's why we ask our guests every week. But don't sell
Sorry, I
yourself
couldn't
short,
help you
my
with that
man.
one.
Obviously, you have a lot of great insight. It might not be on the creative side, but honestly, a lot of artists don't need that help. Where they need the help is on the less creative stuff. I mean, not that what you do isn't creative, but the stuff that they are more scared of. And the work that you do, helping these artists achieve financial independence, helping them manage their money, so important. And there's a lot of great advice you give along the way. So, Rick, we thank you very much for your time and for sharing so much wonderful insight with us. Our thanks to Rick Morse and producer Lauren. Our thanks to my son Nathan, who jumped in the middle of the show. That was pretty fun. And our thanks to all of our viewers and listeners for checking out Break the Business. We will see you next week.